Hello viewers, welcome back to the channel once again. In this video, today we are going to start with the literature paper for class 9th. Like in the last video, I talked about the prescribed syllabus for class 9th as far as Merchant of Venice is concerned. So by the end of class 9th, we are supposed to complete from Act 1, Scene 1 till Act 3, Scene 2. Now, in this video, today I am going to give you a brief introduction to the play called Merchant of Venice. At the same time, I am going to start with the text for Act 1, Scene 1. Now, Merchant of Venice, as I have tried to summarize out here in the blackboard, basically there are two settings in the play. Now, settings per se where a play that takes place. So the play itself, it starts from in a street of Venice, if you look into the text. But there will be multiple locations where the play will revolve as far as the setting of Venice is concerned. The other setting for the play, that is Belmont, where we get Portia's mansion, the house which she owns, and there it will involve other characters such as Nerissa and others. Now, Act 1, Scene 1, which is called as the exposition to the play, which introduces the main characters to the play, such as Antonio. So, as far as a play is concerned, or as far as a literary text is concerned, there are several plots in a particular play. Out here in Merchant of Venice, there is a main plot which involves the characters such as Antonio, Shylock, Bassanio, and Portia. Now, these four characters, they basically construct the main plot of the play. The entire incident of the play, it revolves around these four characters. It is something like the Bassanio, who is in need of money because he wants to go to Belmont. He wants to take part in the game of casket, which was devised by Portia's dead father. So he wants to take part in that game of casket so that he can marry Portia. So Bassanio, at the beginning, towards the end of this Act 1, Scene 1, we come to know that Bassanio is in need of some money because he wants to go to Belmont in order to marry Portia. In that case, he comes to his true and faithful friend Antonio. Okay, now he comes to Antonio, and in the past also, whenever there were some difficulties as far as financial crisis is concerned, Bassanio has taken loan from Antonio. So in this respect also, Bassanio comes to Antonio asking for some loan. So towards the end of this Act 1, Scene 1, we are first exposed to the main crisis of the play, that is Antonio, who is unable to pay the loan at that particular moment, because he says that all his money or all his all the wealth that he had, he has already invested all of them for his business. In this particular scene, we are also introduced to the business which Antonio runs, his business that runs in the ships, and his ships that travel, that exports and imports goods in from multiple locations. So towards the end of this Act 1, Scene 1, first of all, we are introduced to the crisis that I said, where Bassanio is in need of money. He comes to Antonio, and Antonio says that he is unable to pay the money at the moment. And the scene, it ends where Antonio, he advises, or he plans to go to the merchants of Venice, asking to pay them some loan so that he can pay it back to Bassanio, and Bassanio accomplishes his desire to go to Belmont. So this is all about the main plot of the play. It doesn't mean that there are not other characters. There are other characters also there in the play who directly or indirectly, they also have some effect to the play. Now, one of the most important subplots of the play, out here I have numbered them like subplot number 1. It involves two main characters of the play. One is Lorenzo, an amorous friend of Bassanio as well as Antonio, and a Christian boy. And it also involves Shylock's daughter Jessica. So both of them, they fell in love with each other, and at a particular point of time, Lorenzo and Jessica, they elope together, and Jessica, while eloping away, she takes away all the wealth, jewelries, all the valuables from her father. So this Lorenzo and Jessica, they together, they constitute the subplot number 1. Coming to subplot number 2, it also involves two main characters of the play. One is Graciano, once again a friend to Antonio as well as Bassanio. It also involves Nerissa. Remember this name? One of the most important characters of the play. Now Nerissa, who is a maid servant to Portia. The time when Bassanio goes to Belmont, when he actually takes part in the game of Cascade, at the same time both of them, they fell in love with each other, and they also decide to marry. So till now I talked about the main plot, which involves these four characters. Then I talked about the subplot, if you remember, Lorenzo and Jessica. Then another two characters, Graciano and Nerissa. Now moving on to subplot number 3 now. Now subplot number 3, it involves one of the most important characters. These two characters, Salarino and Salanio, they have got their Italian names. These two characters, they will remain present on the stage from the beginning till the end of the play in multiple locations. And some critics, they have argued on the ground that both Salarino and Salanio, they are playing as the mouthpiece for Shakespeare. They are introducing the situation to the audience. So these two characters, once again, they create that subplot number 3. And subplot number 4, it also involves one of the funny and comic character, that is Lancelot Gobbo. There's a scene, Act 2, Scene 2, where we are introduced that funny encounter between Lancelot Gobbo and his father, Old Gobbo. So these two characters, or especially Lancelot Gobbo, it provides the comic relief to the audience. So whenever he is present to the stage, he cracks some jokes, or he talks about some philosophical ideas. So being a man of very humble job, because he, at a particular point in time, he decides to leave the job of Shylock. He decides to go and join as a servant for Bassanio. So his presence on the stage, it always provides the comic relief to the audience. So with this, today I'm going to start with this Act 1, Scene 1, like I said. Act 1, Scene 1, it functions as the exposition to the play. So now, any literary text, it has a particular point where it starts. So if I take this particular point as a starting of any literary text, so it can be called as an exposition to the play. Then there is this gradual, development in the plot. What is plot? I have already explained to you. So there is this gradual development in the plot is concerned. Then there is a rising point in the plot. So in this particular play, that there will be a scene which is called as Act 4, Scene 1, and which is also known as trial scene, where the excitement of the audience, it will reach to its height. So this particular curve, as you can see, it has gone towards its height. So this particular point, it can be called as the climax of the play. So remember, so Act 1, Scene 1, it is an exposition. Act 1, Scene 1. Act 4, Scene 1. That is called as the climax, where the excitement of the audience, it reaches its height, and then there's this gradual decline of the excitement, and finally the conclusion or reconciliation towards the ending. So this particular point is Act 5, Scene 1. So all these scenes, including Act 3, Scene 2 also, these 4 scenes, you can say, it construct the pillars of the play on which this play, it stands. As far as Act 1, Scene 1 is concerned, I have got this text written by, edited by Javier Pinto. In this particular play, in this particular book, there's an introduction that is given out here for Act 1, Scene 1. Basically, this scene, it starts in a street of Venice. And first of all, we are introduced with 3 characters at the beginning. First of all, the most important character of the play, that is Antonio. And we are also introduced to the 2 characters, Salarino and Salanio. The scene, it begins where Antonio is having a melancholic mood. He is sad, and the tragedy of the scene is that he is not sure that why is he sad. So he doesn't know the reason. Now the rest of the two characters, that is Salarino and Salanio, they keep on guessing that what can be the reasons why Antonio is sad. So one of them, they declare that maybe Antonio is thinking too much about the safety and the security of his ships, because a voyage in the ship through a ship, it is a risky thing to do. So maybe Antonio is thinking too much about the safety and the security of the ships, or maybe he is thinking too much that what would happen if it happens one of his ships it drowns, then he will have to face a blunder, he will have to face a huge loss. So one of them it claims that Antonio may be sad because he is too much worried about the safety and the security of the ships. Now other one, that is Salanio, he claims that maybe Antonio is in love, though that is a funny remark that is made by Salanio. But both these claims were being rejected by Antonio at once, where Antonio said that his business, it is not one bottom trusted. His business, it is not dependent on one particular ship to one particular location. His business, it is not dependent on the benefit of one particular year. So Antonio clearly rejects the ideas, or you can say the claims that are made by Salarino and Salanio, that what can be the reasons why Antonio is sad. So finally, a philosophical statement that comes from Antonio, and which is one of the memorable speeches in Act 1, Scene 1 of Merchant of Venice, where Antonio claims that this world, it is like a stage, and Antonio has decided to play the role of a sad man, and that is why he is sad. According to Antonio, he is sad because he is not happy. See, I said that the main plot which involves Antonio, Shylock, Bassanio and Portia. So the exposition to the main plot, it comes towards the ending of the scene, where we find the entry of the three characters, namely Graciano, then we find the entry of Lorenzo, and another important character of the main plot, if you remember, Bassanio. Towards the beginning of this video, I talked about Bassanio's desire to go to Belmont. He wanted to marry Portia by taking part in the game of casket. Now here in this particular scene, towards the ending of the scene, Bassanio he reveals his desire actually to go to Belmont. He wants to take part in the game of casket. Few lines I'm going to read from this text, where there's a particular point where Graciano and Lorenzo, both of them try and pull a leg of Antonio, comparing Antonio to be a person who prefers to be sad, who prefers to be decent enough, so that his expression that don't come out of his speech. Now one of the important speeches in Act 1, Scene 1, where Graciano says, when Antonio claims that he decides to play the role of a sad man, Graciano says that he wants to play the role of a fool. If Antonio wants to play the role of a sad man, he would prefer to play the role of a joker. He would try to make people feel happy for the sake of him. According to Graciano, he says that there are some people in this world who sit like the grandsire cut in Ulster. So there are some people who always sit like white statue. In their faces there is no expression like the standard water in a pond. So there is no movement in the faces at all. So it is better to live your life fully. It is better to be happy. It is better to make everyone happy in your life, rather than sitting like a white statue, pretending to be a sad man. So till then, we are not sure that why Bassanio has all of a sudden he has come to meet Antonio. But as soon as Graciano and Lorenzo they take their leave from the scene, on the stage we only find the presence of Antonio as well as his amorous, his best friend Bassanio. In that particular in that particular situation, suddenly we are exposed to the main plot of the play, where Antonio wants to know the reason why Bassanio all of a sudden has come to pay a visit to him, and Bassanio, he starts giving the account. He starts giving the account of the beauty of Portia, where he describes Portia to be of wondrous virtues, and he says that sometimes from her eyes I did receive fair speechless messages. At the same time, Bassanio also compares the Portia in Merchant of Venice to be the Portia of another play written by William Shakespeare, that is Julius Caesar, and there was a particular character called with the same name Portia, and there she was Cato's daughter and Brutus's wife. So this is how he describes the beauty of Portia. Obviously, he talks about, he compares the golden hair in Portia's head to be the golden fleece. And towards the ending of the scene, finally he says that it is his dream actually to go to Belmont and take part in the game of casket. And that is why even in the past also he has so many times he has asked for some loan from Antonio, and with a clean hand, with a clear hand, always Antonio has paid that loan to Antonio, to Bassanio. So Bassanio, he expects the same in this respect also. But unfortunately, we come to know when Antonio says that his fortune or his wealth, all the belongings that he has, that are all being invested in his business, which runs through the ships in the sea. But he says that, try what my credit can in Venice do, that shall be racked ever to the uttermost to furnish thee to Belmont. So finally he says that let us go and try and talk to the merchants of Venice around. There are so many friends of us. So if we can raise the amount that you are in need of, then we can satisfy to your need and you can make your voyage to go to Belmont. So finally she says that, to fair Portia go presently inquire, so will I, where money is, and I no question make, to have it of my trust and for my sake. So even in the past also, I have never rejected you for the sake of money. Anytime I want to do the same in this regard also. So I'll try my level best. I would be your security. From whatever reason, I'll try to have that principal amount so that it can make your voyage to Belmont being successful. Now, few points I would like to wrap it up this video by I would like to remind you when we go to the next part of the rest of the scenes or the next scene. So this scene, it gives birth to one of the most important crises of the play. Now, Bassanio is in need of money. He comes to his friend Antonio. Antonio is unable to pay that loan, or you can say that debt or that amount to Bassanio. In that particular respect, there is only one merchant. In that particular situation, there would be one particular merchant who can actually pay them that the required amount, that is Shylock. So this particular last part of the play, it would make Bassanio and Antonio to go to their age-old enemy, you can say, that is Shylock. Shylock, who has always been waiting for one particular opportunity where he can take his revenge from his Christian enemies. Because there has been age-old enmity between Antonio and Bassanio with Shylock. So this crisis, it would actually give rise to a particular situation where Shylock would have an available opportunity where he can devise a particular bond. So what is that bond? I'm going to talk in the next video. Thank you.